Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, I guess we should probably share what we're trying to do here, Graham?
Yeah, totally. I guess what we're trying to do is we're experimenting on LinkedIn and different media platforms to promote what we're doing, promote what we're seeing in the energy space, and just have, in this case, trying out an informal discussion where Ian and I talk about what we're doing, what we're seeing in the space. In this case, maybe a bit of a intro on LinkedIn, and why we're posting so much on LinkedIn, why we're engaging in this style. So very, very informal here.
Yeah, I think it's just gonna be fun, right? It's a good way, a good conduit to share some ideas and to see how different mediums work. So I guess that's what we're trying to do, right?
We're trying not to have something canned, I think, here. Like we had discussed, or we were talking on my webinar and podcast, which is Innovation Underground, which I like to send out a very, I guess, templated sheet more for the audience to have an idea of what they're going to talk about, not to surprise them. And you had said that in some instances, just having a conversation where there's nothing canned would be really cool, because I think a lot better discussion can happen that way. So
yeah, totally. And here we are, right? So we've both been kind of playing with LinkedIn a bit and posting in more public forums. There's lots of reasons why I like to do it. I think partly it's a way and a discipline just to stay up to date on what's going around me. There's lots of folks talk about how writing is a way of refining your thinking, and so for me that's always been a useful tool. And it just forces, at least for me, to think a little bit more critically about some of the things I see crossing my desk. There's just so much noise and so much activity in this industry. If you're not thinking critically about how those pieces come together, what they relate to, what you might think about them, they kind of wash through my mind. And so this has been a nice way to share that with the world, but also keep myself disciplined.
Yeah, I agree, and that's totally why I started doing it as well. Like we were just talking LinkedIn. I started just paying attention to all the news and all the announcements that were happening in the subsurface innovation space, which is the CCUS, geothermal, helium, direct lithium extraction, natural hydrogen. I was seeing that as like 35 announcements a week, meaningful announcements, like announcements with, that are actually, this project moved forward, or this JV happened, or, somebody gained funding, somebody drilled a well, somebody, acquired some land, not opinion pieces, right? I do read the opinion pieces, but I don't include that in my tracking. But it's like, I was finding it very hard to keep all of that information in my brain, and also to reference it in the future, to say like, oh, this is what happened last week, or if we talk about Alberta, for example, these are the announcements we saw over the last quarter, right? And so I found that posting on LinkedIn helped me, or is helping me, retain that information. But also, I think another component of that is, if I'm tracking this, I might as well at least make some of the most important announcements of the day visible, right? And see what kind of engagement or interaction I get with that, to hear other people's thoughts on it, which I think is something that's really powerful about it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I really admired how you kind of zeroed in on a body of content and coverage that you really want to focus in on. I found that more difficult in my space, just because we obviously work together on the subsurface innovation pieces, but we cover power, renewables, other low carbon fuels, like the whole gambit of energy. And I'm finding myself more and more trying to find these sort of niches where either on a weekly theme, there's something that sort of caught my attention and dig into it more deeply, or trying to stitch together ideas either from an investor community standpoint to what we're seeing on the technology front, or how these technologies fit together. But like finding that sort of common thread to stitch it together and to curate what I want to spend my time on and share has been a fun experience as well.
Yeah.
So pretty cool to see how that's come together.
That's what I love about what you're posting, what you're doing, is connecting that common thread, and that your weekly summary of how that connects together, and what your most, what the most important announcements in your mind are based on what you've seen in the market. I think is something that I envy about what you're doing. I'd say.
Well, I'm careful. I don't think it's like the most important announcements because there's so much stuff happening.
Yeah.
It's sort of like I've tried to start more with a topic or a thread that I wanted to follow and then relate some evidence around it rather than trying to be on top of everything. I found that a bit exhausting, trying to always have every big deal and every big thing and have something to say about all of them. I mean, of course we could and we would, but letting the ideas lead as opposed to being completely dominated by the headlines.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess my strategy is a little bit different in terms of, I'm not necessarily trying to post as much, as much about the idea behind it, but more just formative, like, this happened. And then, this is what else happened that's similar, and more to let other people connect what that means. But really just as a way to keep, people up to date. Because if an announcement happens, it's like, well, is this unique? Is anything else happening that's related to this? And often there is, and because I am tracking that, it's like, well, here's all the other examples. It looks like this is actually gaining some momentum, or it's not. It's a one-off. To, I guess, in a way, connect similarities, but more from a information standpoint rather than a ideation standpoint.
Yeah, I think clearly it's working. Like either the consistency of the approach to me seems to be as important as anything because you sort of find your voice and it's easier to filter out what you want to pay attention to, how you want to think about it or comment on it.
Yeah. It's interesting to think about engagement for these, for what we're doing, because I think that's a huge reason why I started. I mean, other than, trying to stay up to date and, help others, but is to engage with the community, people who are actually interested in learning this kind of information. And finding ways to get people to engage with the content has been one area where I think it's challenging. I don't know if it's people don't have time to post or to comment, which is often the case, right? Like to actually come up with a meaningful comment that adds to the discussion can be difficult. And we're all strapped with time, and so that can be a struggle. Yeah. So where was I going with this? Oh, trying to get engagement on posts, and I find that some posts get more engagement than others, which is interesting. I like. Where do you feel that you get the most engagement from your posts, and like, is that something that could be repeated to, improve engagement, to just spark that discussion?
I think at least with my stuff, it's been usually more of a headline around a deal or some sort of news item that's somewhat timely. Although the ones I enjoy personally the most probably are a little more conceptual and less time dependent. As much as I'd love more engagement, to me, it's more, again, the premise of capturing ideas and thinking critically. To me, that's been valuable. And what I've treasured more is probably the DMs and stuff like that, like meeting some people. Like I'm not naturally out seeking attention from a bunch of folks, but as this being a public facing way to capture and curate ideas, it's been more rewarding than I expected with just some of the folks that have connected and being able to learn more about a bigger community.
Yeah, for sure. I find that, I mean, I'd agree with that, connecting on like with DMs with people. I actually get a lot of students reaching out, and I end up going for coffee with students, helping them understand or navigate the, I guess the adjacencies to the traditional oil and gas business. I think it's interesting actually because I was having a drink with one of my classmates last night actually, and he was talking to our old professor about, and I went to, or I did master's in integrated petroleum geosciences, and he's still running that program at the University of Alberta. But he's struggling to get students motivated into the oil and gas space. And he's trying to sort of pitch it as, it's not just oil and gas. It's, there's a lot of adjacencies to other businesses here, like CCUS geothermal, and even beyond that, just the analytical skills gained from that. We were essentially talking about how to motivate those students more. And I find when I'm going for coffees with these students, they're asking about the oil and gas business, but I'm telling them there's a lot of exciting things happening in that space, and there's a lot of adjacent things that you can look at to go into. And I really enjoy having those conversations with students just to see where their heads are at in the energy space. And I'm able to do that by connecting with them on LinkedIn through those just direct messages. And
Yeah.
like things as simple as Inveris is a software company. I never thought as a geologist I'd be working at a software company, and I think that gets those students really excited that there is potential there. And so I think getting involved with the community that way is awesome. And that's one thing I love about the engagement.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just thinking more about your original question, I suspect you could farm more engagement by being more antagonistic with the style of post, or staking out a stronger point of view or perspective on the world. I think the challenge I have with that is we see the world through much more nuanced lenses, and I think there's valid points on a lot of different sides. So many of the relationships we have on the customer side, you can have the same set of facts and people make very different decisions because their context, their values, or their point of view is a little bit different. And so trying to be like balanced and thoughtful about what we observe as opposed to antagonistic, I think for me is necessary to be authentic, but at the same time probably doesn't drive the social media algo the way that it would like.
Yeah, it's interesting talking about the social media algo, because I'm always trying to dissect it. Like, what does it want? What does it like? What is it promoting? And it's interesting to see what it does promote. Like, do you use hashtags? Do you not? Do you call out companies or individuals? Or do you not? I find like it can be very random. Like, you can post something with no hashtags, no call outs, but just a great image. And it does really well. It gets a lot of engagement, or you can, or it does it right. I find it's one of the most difficult parts. Is actually trying to improve that engagement. I find that beautiful maps work. That might be a nature of my audience, which is definitely heavy weighted to the geologists, and then geothermal, which I think is got a really passionate base behind it that wants it to work. And is I think not only wants it to work, but also are strong advocates for its visibility in the energy world. And so I think it's really cool to see that community and the engagement I get, say, on a geothermal post versus a CCUS post.
Yeah. I haven't noticed the theme quite as much yet, and it'll be interesting to see how that coalesces as time goes on. I feel like I'm still finding my voice in sort of community and stuff like that a bit more. But it's been fun, and I think as long as I remain focused on why one does it, and again, for me, as much as anything, it's sort of like a public journal entry in a way, and a good discipline. I hope that resonates, and it seems to. And if it doesn't, that's okay. That's the reason why I'm doing it.
Yeah, you got to start posting at 10 or 11, not 6.
It's so varied. I mean, I'm definitely a slave to my own habits, and we're sitting here Mountain Time. A lot of our client base is financial services as well, or Houston based, and so like I consume this largely like on the way to work, or like early on, just kind of a quick scroll through, and so I'm very biased to presenting content at that hour. But I do wonder if that variability maybe would help.
Yeah. I mean, I've just been playing around with it, like different times, different content, different voice in a way, just to see what does resonate. And I agree. I don't think I've found the answer, and so I keep experimenting. But I think I'm getting closer, and I've been using things like AI and just ChatGPT, posting in some of the content with some of the results to ask it, what about this content is unique, or what about these 5 different posts that had the most engagement what were the main similarities between them, and how
Yeah.
can we develop a strategy going forwards to sort of mimic that and improve it. And it does actually a really good job.
I haven't tried that yet. My thinking's been trying to be pretty consistent with the timing, in the sense that as you build that, as there are folks that do kind of look forward to some of that content, and I'm always appreciative that anybody wants to read any of it. That consistency of timing in some ways hopefully makes it easier to expect and know when to and where to find it. But yeah, it seems to be like an endless experiment, both on like what to talk about, the style, the time, how do you fit it in with one's life and day job.
Yeah.
And but it's been good. It's been a fascinating adventure so far.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's been a good reminder to me to continue to experiment and be creative, like in every aspect. I think especially at work, like we write research, it's like there's a very standardized and structured approach in some cases in how we do write research, and it's like, what are the ways that we can change that, can improve that? Should we be looking into it deeper? It's got me thinking a lot more about that specifically.
Yeah, it's also been fun to do it sort of in partnership with you, and it's been in parallel. But like as we think about how to approach these things and give it a go, so yeah, super cool.
I know we wanted to keep these relatively short and informal, so
yeah, I think this has been a good experiment and a good first cut. I'm sure it's not the smoothest delivery, but hey, nothing ever is on the first go. But totally. I look forward to doing this again, and just sort of random topics, whether it's our approach or and what we're trying to do here. If there's things happening industry-wide that you kind of want to explore, it's a nice, fun space to do it. We're going to do it anyhow. Might as well do it in public.
I agree. Just another step in our experimentation journey. Public engagement. So I think we'll see if it works. And if there's anybody watching right now,
I think there's 5, maybe. There's a few people, it looks like, on the stream. But
yeah, I was gonna say, if there's anybody watching, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time.
Oh yeah, totally. All right. One of the things is comments. Sorry, no comments.
Right.
So for those watching, we're using something called StreamYard, and we're just testing it out. But it's a pretty good platform. So
yeah, it's been smooth.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I'll talk to you later.
You bet.
Yeah. Have a good day. See you, everybody.